Hello everyone, I'm Nitij and welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, we are diving into the fascinating world of voice recognition in React using the Web Speech API. So if you have ever wanted to add speech to text functionality to your React application, then this video is for you. Before we get into the code, let's talk about the Web Speech API. This powerful browser feature enables voice data to be recognized and processed into text. It is incredibly versatile, supporting numerous languages and dialects. The best part? It's surprisingly easy to implement in web applications, opening a plethora of possibilities for enhancing user interaction and accessibility. Currently, this API is primarily supported in modern browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and probably Safari as well. However, keep in mind that not all features may be available across all browsers and the level of support can vary. This is crucial to consider, especially when building applications for a broader audience. Always check the latest compatibility on platforms like MDN WebDocs or Can I Use for the most up-to-date information. So let's start with our code walkthrough. So this is VS Code and I have already created a sample React applications template with a single component with the name of voice input. This component has currently a text area where we want to input text using our voice. So currently we cannot do that. We can type something like this, but to enable this text area to be able to input text based on what we are speaking, we will have to integrate the Web Speech API into our React application. And the way I will be doing that is to follow a custom approach by creating a hook, because it is somewhat complicated to implement or integrate Web Speech API into our React project than what it is with a normal HTML and JavaScript application. Also, because a hook will promote reusability so that we can use the hook across our entire project or maybe across different projects as well. So it's better to write that functionality into a hook so that it can be reused. Now, the first thing that I will be doing with our voice input component is to add a button which when clicked will start to listen to our voice and translate it into text, which will be inputted into the text area. Clicking on the button again is going to stop listening to our voice. So let's create a new button and I'm just going to set the button text as speak. Now let's apply some styles to our button. So right now I'm just going to use inline styles for the ease of understanding. So let's first set the background color and its value is going to be a hex code, which is going to be this one 008, because I have already figured out what colors I have to use. That is why I can type them directly over here. So background color is going to be this one, text color is going to be white, and then let's set the padding as well. So 10px and 20px. Now instead of adding all of these style properties one by one, I'm just going to paste the rest of the properties so as not to waste time in irrelevant stuff like adding styles to our buttons. I mean, who cares about adding styles, right? Well, I'm just kidding. I mean, this is also important, but we have to focus on adding the voice input functionality. So this is how the button is looking. We can simply click on speak, but right now it doesn't do anything. So let's integrate the voice enabled input for our text area after clicking on this button. Now to create the hook, I will simply create a new folder in the src folder with the name of hooks, and then over here I'm just going to create another folder to give a name to our hook, which is going to be use speech to text, and create a new file under it with the name index.jsx. Now let's start the implementation of our Web Speech API hook. So first I'm going to create an arrow function component, and instead of returning this div, we have to return some different values. But before that, let's name our hook as use speech to text and then export it as well. Now we have to first create a bunch of state variables which are going to aid us in our speech recognition. The first one is going to be to check if the web speech API is still listening to voice input or not. So for that, let's create is listening and then set is listening and use state. The initial value is going to be false, obviously, because we will not be initializing the hook with the web speech API listening to our voice input. Next, we are going to need the transcript values which we are going to use to update the text area input. So I will tell you what transcript is. While we are speaking, we are going to get interim results, and we are going to set those interim results into this transcript state variable, which we will then be using. So set transcript equals to use state. The initial value is going to be an empty string. There is one more item that we need to add, and that is going to be a ref for our speech recognition. So I will tell you what it will be used for in a moment, but for now let's just add it. So recognition ref equals to use ref with an initialized value of null. Now after this, we have to check if the browser supports the web speech API or not. If it doesn't, then we will simply throw an error. If it does, then we will configure the web speech API for our use. So let's do that. So the first thing that I will do is I will use an effect hook. So use effect, and this will run when the hook will load for the first time. So use effect, and then let's check for if web speech API is supported or not. So if not, web get speech recognition in window. If it's not a property in the window, then what we're going to do is we're going to throw console.error, which will say web speech API is not supported. Yep, supported. Okay. And then we will have to return from over here with nothing. If that's not the case, then we will just use this recognition refs current to initialize a new instance of the web speech recognition. So new window dot web speech recognition, webkit speech recognition actually, and then let's create a recognition const value, which will simply be a reference of this recognition ref.current. Now let's configure this recognition constant. So recognition dot interim what's the spelling, interim results. So we need to add the capability to accept an options object for our use speech to text hook as well. I mean, we can choose to use it or we can use default values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an options argument over here, which we can use to set the options for our recognition object. So options dot interim results, or if they are not available, then we can simply use true. It simply means that we are going to fetch the interim results and then set our transcript with those results. The next property that we need to set is the language. So again, we can either read the language from the options, or we can set the English language as a default, so EN US. And then finally we need to set if we want continuous recognition or not. So continuous is going to be options.continuous, or I'm going to set the default value as false, because if we have stopped speaking, then we don't need to detect what the user is saying. So it essentially means that if there is a pause in speaking, then it will stop recognizing the voice. Alright, now we can tell the web speech API what exactly it needs to recognize. So for that, first I will check if the WebKit speech grammar list is in window or not. Now if it's in window, if it's supported, then we are going to set the grammar as, now I'm just going to paste a grammar value which I have been tinkering with. I'm not really sure right now if it completely works or not, but because I wanted the web speech API to be able to recognize the punctuations as well, although I'm not seeing much success with it, still let's use this grammar over here. Now we have to write const speech recognition list equals to new window dot WebKit speech grammar list, and then we can simply add a new grammar from the string that we have created over here. So let me just copy it. Speech recognition list dot add from string. The string is the grammar const that we created. Alright, so recognition dot grammars equals to speech recognition list. Alright, so this is how we can add custom grammar strings to our recognition object. Now here comes the main part. We have initialized the WebKit speech recognition object, but now we have to handle the different events when the speech API will actually start to listen to our voice input. The first event that we are going to handle is the onResult event. So recognition dot on result is going to be, let's add the event keyword as well. So now in this onResult event, we are going to fetch the interim results, and then we are going to set the transcript state variable with that, or update the transcript state variable with interim results. So let's create a variable called as text. Now we are going to loop through the results from the event. So I mean, it's a basic for loop. So let I equals to 0, and then I less than event dot results dot length I plus plus, and then this is kind of tedious, but I mean you have to do it. So what I'm going to do is simply append to the text variable the next result that we are getting. So text plus equals to event dot results I 0. So I mean this is how we are getting the results in the event in the transcript property. And finally we have to set the transcript state variable with the text value which we have just set in the above loop. Now the next event that we need to handle is the if there is any error. So recognition dot, let me just scroll this up, recognition dot, actually it's on error. So on error equals to again let's use the event argument. So console dot error and speech recognition error, and then let's provide the event dot error arguments value. Okay, the final event that we need to handle is when the speech recognition will end, then we have to tell the hook that it has to stop listening, or set its state to stop listening. So for that, recognition dot on end, what we will do is first we will set is listening to false, and then we will set the transcript as an empty string. Now finally for this hook we have to do some cleanup as well. Like if the hook unmounts, then we have to stop any existing voice recognition session. So for that I'm just going to return a new function. So return over here, I'm just going to call recognition.stop. Alright, now it's time to add some commands like start listening and stop listening. So let's first create start a listening function. So a start listening. So if we have the recognition object initialized, and that can be checked by simply checking for recognition refs current properties existence, and we are not already listening. So if we are not already listening, then we can start to listen to users voice input. So recognition ref, let me simply copy it from over here. So I think the spelling is not correct. Have I used the same spelling up there too? No, it's a different one. So recognition ref dot current, right? Recognition ref dot current dot start. That's pretty much all we have to do. And we also have to set the or update the value of is listening state variable. So set is listening to true. Now similar to this, I'm going to add a stop listening as well. So for stop listening, let's first change the name, and if it's listening, then we have to stop listening, right? And instead of start, we will simply say stop. For is listening, we will simply set false value. And that is pretty much everything I think we need to do for our hook. Now it's time to return all of these relevant values. So the first thing that we will be returning is listening, so that our component will know if the if the hook is listening or not. Then the transcript, then obviously the start listening and stop listening functions. Now I may have probably done some typo, I'm not really sure, because this is too much code which I have just written. But you know what, let's try to integrate the hook with our voice input component to see if we can test out the voice recognition. So first let's import the hook. So use speech to text. Now over here I will simply destructure all the different properties that we are exposing from the hook. So is listening, and then transcript, and then start listening, and then stop listening. From use speech to text, and you know what, I'm just going to set continues to true, actually not false, because we don't need to stop listening if there is any pause from the user while they are speaking. So set continuous to true. Okay, now I'm going to add a bunch of functions as well for our component. So first one is going to be const start stop listening. So this is just to toggle the voice input. So this is going to be an arrow function. So is listening, if it's true, then we will stop listening, otherwise we will start listening. It's simple as that. Okay, next we need to, because we cannot use this transcript directly, we have to merge this transcript with the existing text which is already there in the text area. So for that simple reason, we will have to update the value of the text input, and the value is going to be text input plus transcript. But we will have to check if we are listening first. So let's do that. So if we are listening, then we are going to set the value of text area as text input plus. Now if we have transcript dot length, because the transcript can be empty also, right? So if we have transcript dot length, then we are going to add to the text input. Now again, we have to check if there is already text in the text area or not. If there is a text, then we have to append a white space as well. If it's an empty text area, then we don't have to append a white space. So if the text input dot length is a is a true value, then we will simply use a white space before appending the transcript, otherwise we will use an empty string. And now plus transcript. Now again, get back to the previous condition. If we are listening, then we will append the transcript, otherwise we will append an empty string. And if we are not listening, then we will simply append or set the text input as the value for our text area. I mean, this is quite a ternary operation, but still, I mean, you get the idea, right, why we have to do this. Now another thing that we have to do is we have to disable the text area if we are listening. So is listening, because I mean, it doesn't make any sense to speak and type at the same time, so we can simply disable the text area. And what else we can do for the text area? I don't think we can do anything else for the text area, but we can update the state of the button while we are listening. So let's do that. First, for the button text, we can make it conditional. So if we are is listening, then we can set the button text as stop listening, otherwise we can set the value as speak like before. And also we can change the background color to reflect the state of the button, so let's do that as well. So if is listening is true, then we can set a different color. So let's use a color indicative of listening to the voice input. So I'm going to use a predefined color, so D6 and then D2 0, otherwise we will keep on using the existing greenish color. And yep, now we also have to add the click event of the button. So when the button will be clicked, then we have to call the stop listening function. But we have to do one more thing. So when we will stop the voice input, then we will have to update the text input by appending the transcript as well, right? So for that, I'm just going to create a new function with the name stop voice input, and inside it, when we will have to stop the voice input, then we can just set the text input as the same value like over here when we were setting the value, but instead of using is listening, we have to set some kind of different values. So we have to use the previous value as well. So previous val is going to be provided as an argument for this update state function. So previous val, we have to add the transcript if it has a length. So if transcript dot length, then again check if the previous value is empty or not. So if it's not empty, then append a white space before transcript, otherwise we can use an empty string. And now plus transcript, and if the transcript doesn't have any length, then we can simply append an empty string. And finally we have to stop listening too. So stop listening. So this is the function which is exposed from the hook. Now over here, instead of this stop listening, we can simply call stop voice input. And now I think our code is done for everything. I mean, I think we don't have to do anything else. Let's see if there are no syntax errors. Nope, there aren't. Now let's see if our code is working or not. Okay, so this is our button and the text area. I'm just going to click on speak because I have been testing it already, so you might have to give your browser permission to use a microphone. Now let's click on the speak button. Okay, let's try again. I'm just going to clear it. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. This is a voice input which is going directly into my text area. Now you can see that I am not typing anything. All of this text input is coming from my voice, which I am talking right now. So yeah, it's pretty cool, right? So as you can see, pretty cool is not exactly recognized, but I mean the rest of the text is kind of pretty flawless. Now I mean, as a user, I can correct it myself, or I can use other features like a generative AI to correct it for me. But the thing is, with this hook, this will also work with the existing text. For example, I'm just going to go to the new line and let's start speaking again. So now I am speaking from a new line, and yep, testing is going fine apart from a few hiccups. So you can see that a white space is added before a new line as well. So I guess another condition needs to be added as well. But still, I mean, the hook seems to be working flawlessly with our component. So yeah, I guess we are done with our hooks code. So guys, that was it for the code walkthrough. If you are enjoying this video and finding it useful, then please give it a like and share it with others as well. Your support encourages me to create more content like this. Also, I hope you now feel confident adding voice recognition to your React applications using the Web Speech API. Remember, this is not just about cool features. It's about making our web applications more accessible and user-friendly. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I post new content every now and then about coding, web development, and the latest in technology. By subscribing, you won't miss out on any of it. Finally, I am Nitij and I will see you in the next video. Till then, keep coding and stay brilliant.